Hi, everyone. Welcome to Friday's sessions. First, we have Jessica Smalls from the School of Magic. I am so excited to listen and connect. She has so much expertise and she's built something so beautiful. So thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I prepared a little presentation slideshow, so I'm just going to share my screen and get that all set up. If I remember how to do it. Hooray! Awesome. So Kui, welcome. I am blessed to be here on Turtle Island with this opportunity to share my story and heart with you. And I'm grateful to you for being here with me to learn. My name is Jessica Fire-Niska Smalls. I'm a holistic educator, medicine woman, and creator of the School of Magic, a nature-based micro school consisting of 3 pods located in London, Ontario. The School of Magic represents the culmination of a 15-year personal project that I began when I was teaching within the government education system and discovering to my dismay that while I was taught to teach in an interdisciplinary, experiential, and connected way, I was not able to implement that within the confines of the system that I was working in. I discovered that there were key elements missing within the picture of what a child needs to learn best. And I made it my mission to change that. I hold a bachelor degree from Trent University and a Bachelor of Education degree from Trent University and a Bachelor of Art degree from, where am I going here? McMaster University. Sorry, my computer is being interesting. Sometimes we have to deal with that.
If you need help, let me know.
No, it's good. Yeah, so the education that my linear education, my university experiences, it was my circular education that happened after that and the learning I embarked on that really reflects who I truly am as a person and a holistic educator. Once I began having children, I became aware of a world that was outside of what I knew. I discovered this deep knowing within me that there was more to what I had learned so far and that this learning would never end. And honestly, this excited me because I was that kid that when anyone said, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was going, everything, I want to be everything. I couldn't ever focus on any one thing. I just wanted to know all the things possible. So I embarked on a deep spiritual learning journey through traditional shamanism, energy medicines, clinical herbalism, and self-discovery after I became a teacher. And this journey led me back to my personal roots of homesteading and my ancestors. I was raised homesteading, however, it felt very poor at the time in the 90s. And this self-imposed social stigma overshadowed all the skills I developed in my growing up years. And it took me a really long time to understand the gift I was given, having been raised with the life skills to be confident in any situation that was presented to me. I could plant, harvest, cook, bake, stack and carry wood, collect water, tend to farm animals and pets, play an instrument, clean, sing, sew, crochet, and heal. Well, on my learning journey, I was developing and living through a deep sense of awe and wonder at the interconnectedness of the natural world. I learned that every plant has a message and a medicine. I learned that our food becomes us. I learned that we can only be as healthy as the soil our food is grown in. I learned that everything is circular. I learned that emotions are created within our bodies, and it is our job to move them and release our feelings so we can remain in right relationship with ourselves and others. I learned to love myself. I learned how plants and animals in the web of life are connected. I learned how to feel, see, and move energy inside myself and others. I learned how to play more instruments and open my voice so I could sing. My lived experience became really quite magical. While I was learning, I was supplementing my children's mainstream education, as at this time I was myself living a linear lifestyle, And for the last 15 years, I have slowly worked circular lifestyle habits into my personal and family life. And I will continue to do so because circular living is a lifelong commitment. In March 2020, I pulled my children out of their education programs and began teaching them at home full-time. What we created together, I organized into some rich, immersive learning experiences for them. It was through my experience teaching my own children, after years of teaching others' children, that showed me the engagement and growth that was possible when a student has the freedom to meet their own needs in an environment with guidance to develop self-directed learning skills. In my current classroom, students are responsible for caring and advocating for themselves at all times. They visit the bathroom without needing to ask. They eat food whenever they need it. They drink water when they're thirsty. They move when they need to and work in any position and space that supports them. They have awareness and practices around left brain, right brain connections. They are asked to remain aware of their own energy and boundaries and honor them. They create, they play, they sing, they accept themselves and one another. Research is available through accessible information in the classroom, and they know that they're on a mission to uncover and express their unique gifts. I believe every child has a gift to share with the world, and it is my responsibility as an educator to provide a way for their gifts to be realized and supported. So this brings me to the very topic of my presentation today. It is teaching for circular living. In dominant society for hundreds of years, our homes, families, communities, workplaces, modes of production, economies, and whole lives have been built on the human-made idea of a linear world. Linear thinking is one-dimensional and narrow, and expects things to go neatly in sequence and result in a product. By definition, linear living needs an endpoint or a finish line. By contrast, circular living has no beginning or end. It is a continuous cycle, and like all cycles, it goes through stages that change and evolve on an ongoing basis in response to the environment. Circular living is often restorative, often regenerative. It looks to the sustainable and ever-evolving cycles of our planet as inspiration. Its muse is the natural world. So I just want to share a few examples of linear versus circular living that contrast one another. The first one I'm going to share about is aging. The linear concept of aging is that beauty and youth last as long as possible. We use makeup or surgery to elongate youth. And we find ourselves saying, oh, wow, she looks good for 50. And all that is a system based in judgment. In the circular way of life, we see aging as respecting the cycle of youth, growth, maturity, aging, and death. So it's based in acceptance. That just feels better to me. The next example I have here is farming. In the linear way of living, we have a monoculture, which is aiming for a maximum yield with one crop at the expense of depleting the soil and injecting the earth, animal, and human bodies with chemical fertilizers. Eventually, it will leave a patch of barren land. Now, the circular way of living cultivates a mix of plants and animals in a holistic ecosystem, nourishing and replenishing the soil over a series of years with time allowed for rejuvenation. It utilizes natural practices like grazing animals who are allowed and encouraged to express their biological tendencies, and in doing so, working with the land through cycles of feast, famine, growth, and decay. Because if you live in a circular way, you understand that it's not going to be perfect all the time. There's going to be some things we need to work through, and that's okay. The economy is another example. In the linear way of living with economy, we take a resource, we make it a thing, we sell a thing, and finally we waste a thing. From the beginning to the end, the expectation is that the thing being made will one day end up as waste as part of the overall plan. In the circular way of living, A product is created with the whole life of it in mind, including retrieving and reusing the materials at the end as value to continue, ideally in a never-ending waste-less cycle. So the difference here, and I believe we're shifting there, I can kind of see in our world that we're shifting away from this linear model to a circular model. However, right now, consumers are expected to be responsible for the waste, whereas in the circular model, it is the producer of the waste that is responsible. So then it comes to education. That's what we're really here to talk about today. So the linear education model that's current today in government-run schools is designed around subjects and specifics that must be learned and regurgitated. It's goal-oriented with a clear beginning and end to the learning process. Results of tests are reported in comparison to average results of learners, and students are separated by grade and age in a way that we only see in mainstream schools and nowhere else in our society at large. Subject areas are often taught apart from real-life examples by someone with no experience with living the content, and according to a model of learning that does not truly adjust to the learner. The learning process here is about creating a person with information inside their mind so they can perform as an obedient employee when learning is finally finished at a predetermined age. Now, education in a circular living way understands that learning is a lifelong process that happens over time and meanders through all areas of passion and interest for the learner. New learning builds upon previously learned concepts to connect to a greater vision that follows the path the learner's taking, which is individual to the learner, yet connected to the larger network of circular patterns in the natural world. Movement through education happens at the understanding and individual pace of the learner rather than being determined by age, grade, or marks. Learning areas are integrated and connected to experiencing and participating in natural processes and cycles over and over again for deep, lifelong understanding. And the goal is to allow the child to be. And that brings me to the School of Magic. Our entire curriculum is based around circular living. Our engagement with the process of growth through a student's time with us goes from sprout to seedling to sapling, trees in training, which was, we've had one graduate of our program and that was their contribution. They called high school students trees in training, and finally mature trees. Trees are the educators, and as an educator, it's my responsibility to demonstrate and provide experience with circular living practices so students can know it and future generations can keep this wisdom alive. We bring in some pretty specific foundational practices into our school. And the first one is our morning circle and our ceremonies. We begin every morning in our learning, sharing, reflecting circle. So Mondays, we hear a story. Tuesdays, we share openly about our own self. And then Wednesdays, we come back to the story on Monday and we reflect on the teachings that we see in the story. And we also come back to circle for special events and ceremonies around the natural rhythms of the earth. In circle, we understand that we listen and take turns speaking by utilizing a talking piece. We understand and cultivate a deep respect for everyone in our community and know that we are all equal in the circle of life, with no one above or below, in front of, nor behind anyone else. We celebrate collectively birthdays, equinoxes, and solstices with spirit days, where we drum and sing and eat delicious meals and treats made by our kitchen crew, and spend a great chunk of the day playing freely. Now, these teachings I mentioned, they are the 7 sacred grandfather teachings, and I believe that humans naturally embody when they discover and live through the wonder of the natural world. They include respect, truth, honesty, love, humility, courage, and wisdom. And they are teachings of interconnected concepts that we share stories about around our morning circles. We draw heavily from First Nations cultural teachings and books and give all credit to the First Nations people of Turtle Island, whose lands we are all living on today. These teachings represent core values that are the vibrant threads that weave purpose, integrity, and meaning into every single chapter of our lives. Each teaching has a statement that the students share, as well as symbols that represent them. The symbols give students something concrete that connect them to the teaching, and the statements are repeated in a choral reading style each morning so we can remind ourselves and each other of what we are all really here for. The symbols and statements were a suggestion, actually, from our students, so they would have a better chance at remembering the teachings because they really want to memorize them. And we were concerned that they would start memorizing and lose touch with the context of the lessons. So that's when we started separating out that Monday would be a story, Tuesday would be sharing, and Wednesday would be reflecting. The students lead these statements, and it's their responsibility to ask for help when they need it. We share traditional stories, and the students find the teachings within them, sharing the connections they see and demonstrating their understanding. The statements that are on the slide there, I'm going to read them out to you. So these are like, if every day started with your favorite mantras, these would be what they are. For respect, we say, I honor the basic rights of myself and others, and that's represented by a golden ruler. We celebrate truth. I live the law of peace in my heart, and that's represented by a stone turtle. Honesty, I am me, always, unapologetically, and that's represented by Kichisabe, or otherwise known as Sasquatch. We teach love. I love myself and others, and the symbol for that is a rose quartz heart. Humility, the statement for that is I am one strand in the web of life, and that's represented by a stone wolf. Courage is the sixth one, and the statement that goes with that is I am brave, and it's represented by a dragon. Wisdom is the last, and the statement that goes with that is I listen to my own heart, and it's represented by an acorn. A second set of teachings that I've been introduced to are the teepee pole teachings. I found these teachings in a kit that I was gifted from the Ministry of Education. I researched further into these teachings and discovered that they are meaningful and necessary at this time for a peaceful future. I created cards for our sacred circle mat that explain the teachings and have statements that go along with them. And I will be reintroducing these statements again next week. We do it every year. Since our current student community knows and understands very well the 7 sacred grandfather teachings, they can now pick up the symbol and say the mantra that goes with it and know which one it is and apply that to stories. So we're going to retire those up to our wall in our sacred circle area, and we're going to move on to some more teachings, and they're very excited about that. I really look forward to discovering what symbols the students will choose to represent these additional teachings. With the foundation of our mornings offering reflection, connection, and landing time, we find that our students take in the lessons and we actually hear them talking about the stories and reminding each other of the teachings when their friends forget. This kind of taking care of one another is a circular way of living. So we're actually seeing it in the students' behavior automatically. They develop such a strong sense of community together. The traditional hand drum. The drum is a powerful tool for expression, healing, and community. And I discovered drum facilitation for my own personal healing and became inspired in the training program to bring it into the classroom as a tool to bring connection, healing, and community. Additionally, I became aware of a prophecy out of Oaxaca, Mexico from 2012 called 8,000 Drums Prophecy. That prophecy speaks of 8,000 drums sounding on the earth at the same time on a spring equinox to shift the vibration of the planet to healing. And that when I first heard about it, I got goosebumps all over my body, and I knew that that was something I had to be involved in. Since I've been aware of this prophecy, I've made it my mission to add more drummers to the world. And I'd say my estimate is at about 115 drummers I've added to the world to date. At the School of Magic, the drum is how we birth the voices of the children and their transformation over time with us to ceremony. Each student in our school builds a drum when they first join us and birth it in a special ceremony while celebrating equinoxes and solstices throughout the year. During the building process, we discuss the materials involved and their meanings. Students learn that we drum for self-expression, the healing of the earth, and to connect our communities. We also utilize the drum to support coming of age at 11 years old and student graduation. Students first build an 8-inch drum and drum bag that represents the first voice of their childhood. This drum makes a small sound, and the students end up learning that it's okay to make noise. The year a student turns 11, they build an 11-inch drum and a new 12-inch bag. This bag is made big enough to hold their graduation drum. And as students move into adolescence, we know their voice is bigger, they have more to say, and it becomes time to plan for their future. Hence the bigger drum and the even bigger bag that will also hold their future drum. Their original 8-inch drum becomes an embodiment of their childhood, and many students share they are keeping them for their children, which is circular living at its finest. When a student is in their final year, they build a 12-inch drum, and this drum has an even bigger sound, as their voice going out into the world will have far more influence. Drum circles happen weekly, where we practice different drumming patterns and games, practice our school songs, which are songs that bring circular living to music, like Who I Am is Holy and 7 Directions song, that identify that we are one with creation and everything is alive. Students are encouraged to care for their drums as living things and utilize them as tools for self-expression, emotional regulation, and healing. When students leave our community drums them out. The drum is a part of our school experience from the very beginning to the very end. And this is a vital part of closure for all students as we celebrate our current connections and the new connections coming. This brings me to our School of Magic curriculum. My vision for the curriculum that provides a foundation of learning for students reflects the areas that I began learning about after my linear education was over and my circular education began in my late 20s, and it still continues today. I really truly believe that my learning is never going to be over, and I am really okay with that. I have arranged these areas into curriculum, and my business partner, Courtney Matesic, has simplified and adapted it for use with 4 to 8-year-olds. So it's not too wordy, there's not too much information, and the kids just gobble it up. They love it so much. The areas we cover represent where the magic exists in everything around us and ourselves, and includes but are not limited to any other area as we grow our curriculum for student interests. So students came to me last year and said, hey, we want to do more science. And I said, okay, well, do we need a science badge? And we had this big conversation about it. And yes, it was true. They wanted a science badge. So those kids that really love experiments, I created something especially for them. We're always going to expand in that way because we want everybody's interests to be reflected in our curriculum long term. So we first get into plant magic. We cover foraging, plant identification, safe harvesting practices, cycles of natural growth, properties of foraged medicinals and edibles, cellular biology, herbal practices, soil regeneration and sustainability, and a whole lot of other areas. We just reach out wherever the kids want to go. So from the smallest parts of plants that we cannot see to big trees and root systems, the water cycle, and right back down to the magical constituents of medicines, vitamins, minerals, and the periodic table of elements that exist in our soil, we teach plant magic in a circular way. We also teach Zen magic, which is knowing about your energy and all energy. We do this through emotional intelligence, regulation, safe expression, self-acceptance, emotions and traditional Chinese medicine, breath work, meditation, relaxation, sound energy, moving energy, crystal energy, envisioning, goal setting, manifesting, cycles of nature, and again, so much more. Everything that is energy is in us and all around us, always ever flowing and cycling through our nature and the nature around us. We teach Zen magic in a circular way. We also teach food magic, which are right from the building blocks to creating community meals. We go over vitamin mineral content of a variety of foods, fats, proteins, and carbs, baking, cooking, creating with alternative ingredients. This is where we cover a lot of our math for fractions, capacity, volume, multiplication, division, order of operations, scientific method, and so much more. From molecules and vitamins and minerals to creating in the kitchen, troubleshooting, developing skills, serving meals, cleanup, and the food our bodies are asking for, we teach food magic in a circular way. And we also teach about the human body. Body magic is all about how my body works. So we teach extensively about gut health and brain health, immune health, and how they're all interrelated. The systems and organs of the human body, bones and muscles of the human body, the sense organs and their parts, cellular biology, traditional Chinese medicine basics, the chakra system, educate kinesiology, and it links back to Zen magic a little bit through self-acceptance. So from our cells to the organs, to the systems, to the organism, and the meridians that transmit energy throughout our bodies, we teach body magic in a circular way. Our language program is super fun. It's really revolving around reading and writing, expressing, except we do something a little bit special with it. We have group reading for a purpose, teacher reading to develop imagination, so they can just sit in their mind and imagine. We research. We do story writing for the purpose of creating content for future student learning. We do songwriting, poetry, letter writing, authorship, bookmaking, and publishing. From letters to books, creative language, and publication for a purpose, we teach language magic in a circular way. So when we publish our books, it brings us back to business magic, which is always fun. And that's the next one I wanted to talk about, which our business magic program is about finding purpose in the world. We learn through counting money, adding, subtracting, and multiplying money. So you're dealing with decimals there. Business goal setting and creation, product creation, advertising, presentation and delivery, keeping good business records, tithing, paying ourselves and saving, and community efforts. From concept to delivery and back around the business cycle again and again, we teach business in a circular way. Some of our students have had the same business for 3 years, and we've got to watch it evolve over time as the student grows up in their education, and it has been absolutely beautiful. We also teach creation magic, and this is about learning life skills. We learn how to make food, and we learn how to make almost everything else. I personally teach sewing, pattern creation and copying, crocheting, weaving. We have community partners that come in and taught wet felting this year. I teach paper making. We make mini dolls, we do painting, we model with clay, we create clay from scratch. We do building and woodworking, fire making, shelter building, drawing, and we use math tools in creation so the students know what to do with them. From the smallest things we can fix to the biggest things we can create with foraged, found, donated, and everyday materials, while ensuring our creations are planet safe, we teach creation in a circular way. We, through our hand drum addition to our curriculum, we teach music magic. The seedling and sapling pod gets a little bit more in depth with music. So we cover drumming and time in our circles, choral singing, and then we also cover basic guitar, creating music, and wherever the kids want to go with that. All our music happens in an accepting circle of support and is connected to student interest, math, emotions, regulation, and expression, which means that we teach music in a circular way. Math magic is the last area that I'll come to. And we had some struggle with math magic as teachers that were raised in the linear education system where there's only one way to do something. And so our math magic program really is a result of finding patterns everywhere. So we cover number fluency and understanding. We discuss and practice opportunities for a variety of math strategies. We support students to find their most efficient strategies in understanding numbers, their value, their relationships, and their computations with each other. And from the smallest of numbers to the most difficult equations, with the incredible help of Jillian Berard, we teach math in a circular way now. Jillian is absolutely amazing as an educator, and she is so great at being able to explain what can feel like really difficult, like brain-stopping concepts in math, and just has her special magical way to make it just make sense. I highly recommend doing some training with her. So our curriculum is also ungraded, and the creations and demonstrations of learning that students make are the ways in which we assess their learning. We observe, we ask questions, and we adapt the learning content, environment, and engagement method in an ongoing cycle throughout the year for optimal student success. We provide our students opportunities to work toward achieving badges for demonstrating their learning throughout the year. Badges are given to our Sprout students in one level, and they move into seedling and sapling programs. The requirements for badges increase in complexity and specificity. They also shift into 3 levels per pod, and the students, that grow with the students as they learn more deeply in the subject areas they are most interested in. We then provide students with their earned badges at our year-end student celebration with parents and family in attendance. And it's such a beautiful experience to see them because there's pride in that. It's not like a report card that I experienced growing up and coming home and sharing with my parents, who then had to read a whole bunch of things. This is something that they can display on their clothes. They can put it on their drum bag. They're just so proud when they do this work. Being, where am I going here? So to bring our circular way into families and back into the school, we provide opportunities for parents to connect with one another and our educators to build a strong community and provide opportunity to have questions and concerns answered and just see each other as people. This way, we're able to share consistently our way of teaching, assessing, and supporting student discovery, because what we're doing is very new. So a lot of parents in the outset, when they read our package and they enroll their children, they might understand at that point. But unless they have the repetition, sometimes we've noticed parents go back to like old ways of conditioning around education, and they forget about what we're actually doing and don't really go back to the parent document. So we like to bring them in to kind of refresh their memory always and keep them current with what's going on. So being with parents as well, as a child, as humans operating on the same page for the betterment of all, is circular living. By having those relationships, that is circular living. So we have 2 big projects that I wanted to share about. We have way more than 2 big projects that we're working in, but 2 that I wanted to share just to identify and help paint a picture of what we are doing in our actual classroom that is circular living. So these are the specific examples, 2 of them, of how we incorporate circular living into our classroom. So we have the Circular Living Project, Worms and Soil, Gardening and Medicine, Food and Business. We compost some of our food scraps from our lunches. That compost gets added to our in-class worm bin, and we add the resulting soil that's created to potting soil to regenerate and nutrify the content and add beneficial microbes to the soil. Then we set our worm bin back up, again with safe recyclable materials we have in our classroom. And the worm population gets busy again, creating more worms and converting our waste to soil to grow our food. We plant our seeds in our blend of soil, which then grow and care for them until they produce fruit. Some plants will be harvested for our gratitude feast in the next school year, so we see things go beyond that year. The students are very interested in coming back and knowing that things are ready for them, so it's actually a beautiful practice. We have some other plants that we grow for dyeing fabrics at the end of the school year, and still others we harvest to dry for plant medicines, paper making, and various other crafts that students come up with. A big one for them is basket weaving, so they're always out in the sandbox pulling out roots to dry so they can weave them into a basket. There is rarely a large cost to our plant growing, as the students learn to allow some plants to go to seed to harvest them, which saves the cost of investing in more seeds in the future. This year, our students have prepped a special collection of potted plants that we will actually be selling at EarthFest in London, Ontario on April 20th to celebrate Earth Day. The students call their pots teapots, as they are growing plants to make tea blends that the students chose to blend together based on their research through our Plant Magic curriculum. These pots are manageable for anyone to keep in their home space or to transplant into their garden to create their own personal tea garden in their yard or balcony. The funds from selling these pots will add to the funds available to students for planning our end of year summer solstice feasts. And I just want to add again there, in case it was missed before, that our students, primarily seedlings and saplings, they do all the food planning. If we can make it work, they do all the buying of the material at the grocery store or collecting a material from different families or from our garden. And they're responsible for making it all, serving it all, and setting up the space for a feast. So they literally do everything. That is one that goes throughout the whole year. We're always coming back to it, checking on our worm bin. It's just a great example of circular living that you can do with kids. Our second example, we're just kind of wrapping up in the next 2 weeks, but we've been working on it since early February. It's making maple syrup from our own backyard. We had 2 maple trees in our school playground, and we have been wanting to tap trees for a while, and we couldn't really facilitate getting out to go visit a sugar shack. So early in February, we realized that the silver maples in our backyard of the school had sap dripping from the upper branches. And we were literally standing under there with our mouths open, tasting sap because it was there and it was free and it was dripping down on us anyways. Our school community loves maple syrup, and I travel back to my hometown and bring back tasty syrup all year round for those who request it, as I have family that makes delicious maple syrup. When we realized the dripping was sap, we ordered a couple spiles and buckets and set to work learning how to tap maple trees and care for them. The older students did all the research. They put together a little lesson, and we went outside as a community with the sprouts as well, and we all learned together. During this community lesson, we learned the ins and outs of determining if a tree was safe to tap, how many taps they could handle based on their diameter. We pulled out the measuring tapes, and the older students manipulated the equation for circumference to identify the diameter of the trees. We drilled our holes, tapped our spiles, and hung our buckets. Over the course of 2 weeks, we collected approximately 240 liters of sap, which we boiled down in our school kitchen daily while we learned. The older students checked in on the pots daily and near the end of our boiling twice daily to measure the volume inside the pots. We recorded our measurements and observations, and we'll be graphing them next week to identify our ratio of sap to syrup created. When the sap was done boiling, we filtered it through what we had on hand, a double layer of t-shirt material and a fine metal sieve. Our result was 2.5 liters of dark, delicious maple syrup. When we were done tapping, we learned that the trees will seal the hole we drilled all on their own, and there's nothing we need to do there. We observed many bugs and animals licking at the last of the sap after we removed the spiles, and realized that the process of the trees healing the hole that we made was also beneficial to other creatures. So we stopped feeling bad about it. Plus, we asked permission from the trees before we ever did anything. Early on in our maple syrup journey, students identified that with the maple syrup created, we would give back some to the community church where we run our school out of, and thanks for the electricity and the pots and the sap from the trees in the backyard. The students also wanted to bring some home for parents to try as a thank you for allowing them the opportunity to learn with us. The final way the students chose to use the resulting maple syrup was, of course, a pancake lunch at school. Our kitchen crew will be researching pancake recipes this week and surveying the students in the school to determine what kind of pancakes they'll be making, fluffy or thin. Our pancake lunch will be happening on spring equinox, which is a circular way of celebrating the emerging new life of the plants around us. This has been such a wonderful experience, and the anticipation during the slow process of creation was a great way to incorporate patience for a food source in a world where we can skip over to the grocery store and buy a bottle anytime. But in this circular way of educating, all investments in materials were ones that we'll utilize year after year in our program. So we will never need to invest again. We didn't need to make any money and spend it on maple syrup in the first place. And now the students have seen the process. And if there's anything I've learned teaching kids over the years, is that when they see a process, they feel more confident trying it themselves, especially when they get to participate in it. So my hope is that one day in the future, our students will be leading their own lives, growing their own food, utilizing what nature provides for them in good ways, and sharing what they know with others. In the meantime, I have put together training for educators. I have been gathering our curriculum together to package for sale, to spread this style of teaching all over Turtle Island. And we are beginning a cooperative high school program this coming September in an attempt to restore some of the land-based knowledge that's been replaced by linear living practices and give our children a future they can feel excited about. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I think you're still on mute.
Oh, that is absolutely incredible. I think your reach is going to be further than Turtle Island. So, this is so exciting. I can't wait till more people, and I think there's a snowball effect of, this kind of impact, which is inspiring, really.
Yeah. It says snowball's a circle too. Just roll down the hill and gather steam.
Oh, and it's very, you're right about I love how you laid it out, the linear thinking and the transition, and for the future of our children, who my little rascal is having a moment. It's so necessary. Hi. Okay, say hi. So, does anybody have any questions? You've rendered everyone speechless. There's but you did you got some compliments, of course, how great it is. And I did have a question. So the badges you do, you give them an actual tangible badge and they keep it as a keepsake type of thing?
Yeah, so I actually for my pod students, because Courtney is our Sprout Pod teacher, so she makes their badges for them. So she does like an iron-on style because she doesn't have the same skill set I do. And I make them. So I take felted materials and I hand stitch them. So our badges are these little squares with our logo. This is our logo. So they're just in like a diamond shape. And then the first stage, when they do their level 1, they get a little color based on the curriculum area, and that goes in one little triangle, and then the next triangle, and then the inside of the teepee gets filled in for their level 3. And that represents that they are teaching, their level 3 badges represent that they're teaching the students that are younger than them.
I love that focus on skill acquisition versus just, getting the grade type of thing. It's almost an addiction, I've learned. They like,
Yeah.
what's great? What's the grade? They seek approval and they don't really focus on the process of, because that's very important as well. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
You're
And
welcome.
Cheryl, you have a question? Go ahead.
Sure, yes, if I can, that was great. I really enjoyed your presentation. You really summarized everything really well. And I may have just missed this, but did you mention how long have you been running the school program, first of all? Because you've got a lot
We
of
have
thought
been,
in here.
yeah, we've been running since 2021,
Oh,
but
that's all.
yeah, that's all, but I've been, when my oldest was 2.5, that's when I started a daycare, and that was originally going to just move into a school. But life circumstances, we had to move from where we were. Yeah, so it's been 13.5 years that it's been like simmering on the back burner of my mind since I was in those classrooms, just feeling horrid, not being able to help kids the way I knew they needed to be helped, to learn what they needed to learn. Plus some of the stuff they were learning was just not necessary for them. Yeah, so I had this burning desire, and I'm the kind of person that, like, when I have a drive, I'll just start working a little bit at a time and adding to that and adding to that. So I've been weaving this curriculum for over 13 years.
I can tell, I can see a lot of thoughts gone into this. It's very well designed
Thank you.
and
It means
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, I no, it was very inspiring. And then my other question was in regards to class sizes. So do you have a maximum class size student teacher ratio that you try to kind of maintain?
Yeah, our Sprout age groups, that's 4 to 8 years. They have a 10-to-1 ratio. So there's one teacher, maximum 10 students, and they'll never go over that because it's just too much. And with that age range, it's actually quite a bit better. It used to be just 4 and 5-year-olds. 10 of those are way more intense, we'll say. So once you get those 6, 7, 8-year-olds, it blends out really well. And there's a lot more helping and circular nature in the older ages, helping the younger. In the seedling and sapling pod, I'm the teacher for both of them right now. Our numbers right now are on the lower side. So we have 7, 8 students. So in the 2 pods, so the pods actually learn together a lot, but my limit is the same. It would be 10 seedlings or 10 saplings. So once I hit that 10th student, then I hire another teacher, which is part of the reason why I'm doing a teacher training program, because if I want to bring teachers in, they have to kind of know what's in the curriculum, right? Have to have an experience, at least looking up some herbs and plants and knowing what to do with them.
Yeah, actually, what kind of qualifications would you look for if you were looking to train? Are you looking for like a certain undergraduate program? Maybe you're looking for the opposite, like someone who hasn't gone through the system.
We're open to anybody at this point because it's brand new. So we're just kind of figuring out where the niche is going to be. But we're open for, teachers that have lots of experience that want to come in and just unlearn some of the things that they've learned. So there is a whole section of the training program that's about unlearning and the true history of education in Canada, and just, eye-opening information. And then like we have the students that are coming through right now, they have teaching experience, but it's not formal. They've taught in many different avenues and professional ways, or they have a homeschool, or they run a pod. So we're not going to leave anybody out. Part of our hope is that we're creating a program that won't leave anyone out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, for sure. I have a few more, but I know we're running low on time. I might be interested in some training myself. Not that I'd be able to come and work for your school, but just as gleaning some of your ideas and such, like a lot of things, resonated with me as well.
Well, it's a primarily online program. And then there's some things like every teacher that goes through, because teachers in our school have to know how to build drums. You'll build your own drum. You'll sit in women's circle and kind of learn the facets of those capacities. So there's very minimal like actual in-person time. It's mostly self-reflection and unlearning and just unraveling the thread within us that, you know, got stitched up the way it did, and finding those knots and holes so that we can remake it in a better way. But yeah, send me an email.
I will, yeah.
Yes, and Cheryl will be presenting later at 3. So yeah, you should see what she built too, because she is being quite modest. She is just as magical as you.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
So yes, thank you so much. And if I think we're good with questions. And can you explain just where to contact you, how people can find you?
Yep. So you can contact by text or call at 519-312-1519, or you can visit us online at www.theschoolofmagic.ca. If you go to .com, it's some like magic school with wands and top hats, but CA is us. And we are also on Instagram at _ the School of Magic.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate everyone coming and supporting the amazing Jessica, and look forward to connecting soon. Be sure to follow and share. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.